Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Linda, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the spiritual awakening of transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube, live or later, and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thank you, Linda, and welcome, everyone. Everyone who is with me in the Zoom room right now, and those of you watching on YouTube, you're watching now or later, or picking it up on Facebook sometime later. We appreciate you being a part of the energy that is Unity of Fredericksburg. And today is May the 11th, 2025. Today is Mother's Day. So I want to start off with a few cute little one-liners about Mother's Day. We've all had mother figures, and sometimes we get to be mother figures. So they say silence is golden. Unless you have children, then silence is suspicious, right? It is sad when you sit around waiting for mom to make dinner and then you realize you are the mom. Some of us have probably had that moment. And one more, nothing is lost until mom can't find it, right? Have we all been to that moment? I'm sure many of us are the person in our household who is the finder, especially if you live on your own, then who else is going to find things for you, right? So when we're children, parents help us find things and they help us find our way. And once we're grown, we have to find our own way, right? So my topic for today is spiritual navigation. So how we find our way in this human life from a spiritual perspective, right? So we're going to be talking about a sense of spiritual purpose, divine purpose, if you will, divine plan, divine guidance, and unpacking some of those. Here in the second quarter of 2025, we're really kind of diving into the unity metaphysics of the nature of the divine and the nature of humanity and how that all works. So we're going to be exploring that today through spiritual navigation. So I've got a story to start out with about how things go once we're out on our own, away from the guidance of parental figures. So this is a story you may have heard before, because it was originally published in 1977. It was written by a woman named Portia Nelson, and it's called Autobiography in 5 Chapters. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am hopeless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down a different street. So there's our opening story for today. When we find ourselves walking down the street, whatever that is in our lives, we're often guided by a sense of purpose, right? There's a reason why I'm doing this. So our purpose may be simple and rooted in our human needs, things we must do to, take care of food and shelter and all of those things. Our sense of purpose might be based on our ego and our human desires. So we might want to feel accomplished. We might want to feel liked. We might be driven by a sense of purpose for safety and security. Our sense of purpose might be directed by outer sources, by society as a whole, kind of saying, well, this is what the kind of person you are, this is what they do, or religion, or things like that, or people around us who have expectations. And so we kind of pack that into a sense of purpose. And then there may be times in our lives where we feel adrift. Anyone ever been there? Where you kind of like don't have a sense of purpose. I would like to suggest at those times that it can be helpful to take time away from all of your activities and sort of do a life review. Just kind of look at the basic facts of what you've been doing through different phases of your life, and then kind of reflect underneath and sort of get a sense for what the energy underneath all of your activities are. You might find that if you look at everything you've been doing through your life, you've always been working on, say, communicating or caregiving or creating or organizing or engineering or building relationships, right? Here's a quote from Unity founder Charles Fillmore. Purpose gives us joy and zest to living. Purpose awakens new trains of thought into new fields of achievement. So all of these things we've been talking about so far have to do with the sense of purpose we experience in our human lives. And if you take time to do one of those life reviews, you take stock, you might recognize a sense of purpose that's happening on a deeper level, on a spiritual level. And you may have a genuine feeling of purpose at the level of soul, right? You might have a sense of purpose that crosses across generations and lifetimes and things like that. There are lots of different ways to feel purpose. In Unity, and in I'm going to show you the cover of the book. This quarter, we're using this book, Heart-Centered Metaphysics, as our guide through these topics that we are discussing. And there's a really simple statement here. I'm in a chapter that's called Our Purpose, Divine Will, Divine Plan, Divine Guidance. And the section called Our Purpose has this wonderfully simple statement. And this is from the Reverend Dr. Paul Hasselbeck. Our purpose, and this would be all of us, my friends, our purpose is to realize, be, and express our divine potential, which we sometimes call the Christ. The Christ being that energy of the divine expressing through humanity. And of course, we see that in individuals, and particularly we in Unity, we kind of pattern our teachings after the teachings of Jesus, and Jesus certainly expressed the Christ at a wonderfully defined level. So he's a great example for us. Just listen to that one more time and think about your sense of purpose. Our purpose is to realize, be, and express our divine potential, which is Christ. So that's a different way to think of your purpose, right? So just breathe that in for a moment. Just let it sink into your heart and into your body. Kind of, put that somewhere where you can reflect on it. This divine purpose is based on what you are as a divine being, not the who you are as a human. The divine purpose is kind of the wind beneath your wings, right? Very good. So, moving on. So, let's go back to our story. So, there you are walking down the street, propelled by your sense of purpose, and you fall in a hole. Uh-oh. So, you just imagine whatever that hole in the sidewalk might be in your life. Okay? Now, if you grew up in certain circles, you may have been taught that if you fell in the hole, that it's God's will. Has anyone ever heard that? That if you fell and you suffer, this is a result of your sins. Have you heard that before? Let's see if we can take a minute to unpack that a little bit. Now, as I mentioned, unity principles and practices are based on the teachings of Jesus. So and we've been doing a Thursday evening class on Jesus. So all those stories are fresh in the minds of several of us. So let's just look at when Jesus came upon a man who is stranded laying on his mat. He's near a healing pool of water, but he can't get there. Nobody will help him. Now, Jesus does not stand there and give us a little lecture about God's will, does he? No. He says to the man, pick up your mat and walk. So this impetus to move, to act, to go forth is driven by divine will that is expressing within each and every one of us. In unity, we're not talking about some entity outside of us that has a plan that's a secret that we don't know about, that we have to figure out by falling into holes and scrambling out and things like that. Jesus, in his teachings, puts that level of awareness and personal responsibility and control firmly within ourselves. We have divine will, right? That your divine will, your willingness to act, to move, to express more of your divine nature is something that is yours. So, whenever you find yourself in that hole, whatever that is for you, don't waste your energy looking outside yourself for things to blame. People, circumstances, well, it's because of this, it's because of that. Things happen in our human lives, right? Weather happens, accidents happen, things like that. The question is not who did it or who's at fault. Your brain wants to figure that out, but the question is, how will you respond? How will you address the needs of the moment? So when you can settle your human brain, pivot your attention, pivot your consciousness to the center of your being, that energy of all that is, you may wish to call it God, you may call it the universe, you may call it divine mind, whatever it is, pivot your attention from that, and then you can respond from your divine will as you move forward, not from all of the expectations that are in the outer world about what you should be doing and how you should be doing it. So just take a breath right here. Feel into that energy of divine will that has propelled you thus far in this life and is present, already leaning you into your next breath. All right, moving on. Now, some of you may notice that your human brain likes a plan, right? I love it when a plan comes together, right? So your brain likes to have a plan. Some of us have a brain that likes to make a plan, and we feel secure if we feel like there's a plan. Um, our brains like to be in that space that thinks that everything happens for a reason, right? And the reason is because there's a plan, right? And things happen because they fall into the plan. And on one level, yes, absolutely correct. There is a divine plan. A plan is evidenced by the fact that you are here, living this human life, and you matter. And everything that you are matters in this moment in the universe. And that is, kind of satisfies a divine plan. Here's a quote from Unity founder Charles Fillmore in a book called Christian Healing about divine plan. In order to get at the very heart of being, it is necessary to realize that it is manifesting in the least as well as in the greatest, and that in bringing forth of a universe, not one idea could be taken away without unbalancing the whole. This brings us to fuller realization of our importance in the universe and to the necessity of finding our right place. So there's Fillmore saying that, yes, there's a divine plan. The divine plan is that you and you and you and you and you are here right now in this moment. And the divine plan, the evidence of it is right there in front of us. Now, in unity, we are not suggesting that there is some grand entity outside of us that has concocted this plan for us, right? So I've got a series of quotes on, I'll just show you my page with all of my tabs and stuff. I might as well just read you this whole page, but I won't. I'll just do selected pieces, right? So all about plan. So this is from the book In the Flow of Life by Eric Butterworth, him talking about this. So the only predestiny in life is the ultimate unfoldment of the divine creature you are. But the direction you take in realizing this outforming of the Christ indwelling will always be determined by your consciousness. So, yes, is there a divine plan that you're here? But how you execute that plan is up to you at the level of your consciousness. Let's hear some more. This is from Paul Hasselbeck. The divine plan is how each person decides to bring forth, develop, and express divine will. So we were talking about divine will. This is divine plan. He goes further. Divine will is fixed and does not change, while divine plan is designed and crafted by each individual. So each one of us has divine will, right? That's moving us forward through our days, through our lives. We have that impetus going, and it is what it is, right? But how we use it, how we do it, that's us executing the divine plan that is coming from us, not from outside. We've got all the goodies of all that is of God there that we can use, but we're using it all from the level of our consciousness, our thoughts, our beliefs, our attitudes, and we know, and we teach, and we talk about frequently in unity, you have the ability to work with that consciousness and create a better quality of thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and attitudes, and therefore a better quality of your experience of life. So you can sit at the bottom of the hole that you've fallen in again. And sometimes many of us will feel a sense of failure or frustration or confusion, like, how did I end up here again? once again, a quote from Eric Butterworth in The Flow of Life. You cannot really make a wrong choice or a bad decision. Any step you take will lead eventually to your good. And he goes on to kind of elaborate on that, how no matter how much we feel like we may have messed up or done it again, it's encouraging us to just kind of give ourselves some grace, because no matter what it is that we've done in the past or we find ourselves in again, it is ultimately leading us along our path of growing and learning. Now, haven't you ever been through a hard situation, a challenging situation that was so difficult, and you kind of worked your way through it, and then you kind of look back at it and go, oh, wow, look how I've learned. Look how I've grown. It might be a repetitive cycle or a pattern in your life, but as you learn and grow and lift yourself out of that, it's like those circumstances show up for your benefit. And that's something for all of us to remember when things are challenging, is that we can look at challenging circumstances as opportunity. That as those circumstances are there, we have the opportunity to learn, grow, lift ourselves out of that. So the divine plan, as you reflect on the path of your life, your divine plan might feel deeper than this lifetime, like it's linked to ancestors or other lifetimes. And ultimately, I do want to say that you don't need to look outside yourself. A lot of times we want to look outside ourselves for someone to interpret this for us. And there are certainly people out there who do that. But ultimately, you don't need to look outside yourself. You have all of this within. Here's a quote, and I have this from the Spiritual Passages website, and it's actually listed as an unknown source. So the webmaster there, Reverend Scott Aubrey, hasn't been able to say where it's from. It's about New Thought, and unity is a part of New Thought. So New Thought holds one thing highest and most precious. And that is, you need no other person, object, or gimmick to connect with God. You don't need cards or crystals. You don't need a priest or a minister or a rabbi. You don't need a saint, or let's add in a pope. All you need is to experience the higher power at work in your life, consistently and ever evolving, is your and that's according to your willingness and your dedication. So it's not saying that if you are interested in those things, that they can't be beneficial, and certainly if you enjoy them, that is fine. That is fine. And we do want to say, you have all this within you. You've got everything you need as far as your divine plan. So take a breath right now. Just lean into a willingness, if you will, to realize your own divine plan. Now, it may show itself with ease, with just some reflection sitting out in nature or something, or it may take that some time, that you invest some time in the silence, in the stillness, to come to a realization. Just rest assured, it's there. It's rooted in the I am that you are in this life. So we've talked about divine purpose, divine will, divine plan. We've got one more idea to explore before we move into meditation together. So let's go back to our story. After you've fallen into the hole a few times, it is natural for our human brain to look outside itself for guidance. Just like we were saying, you might want to look to any number of sources for guidance. Your brain wants to want to do some research, talk to a friend, figure it out, do some calculations, things like this. This is the way our human brain works, right? And looking to outer sources And the outer world for guidance might be your best option, say if you're shopping for an appliance. But when it comes to actually directing your own life, it is divine guidance we are meant to seek, right? So when we look at the example of Jesus, when he's making a big demonstration, a miracle of sorts, there's a certain pattern that shows up. So what he does is first he looks to heaven, then he gives thanks, then he claims the good that he wants to manifest. Now it's easy for us to take that first one, looking to the sky, literally, as in, those old thoughts that like there's a, daddy God up there somewhere that we're going to ask for help or something. But Jesus also stated very clearly that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, like right here, presently within each one of us as we are one with what he called the Father. So when we hear about that looking to heaven, just think of that as the pivot in consciousness. Hopefully, some of you were here with us last week when we talked about levels of consciousness and the pivot action of consciousness. That no matter like kind of how down in the dregs we might get with our own consciousness, our consciousness with one breath can pivot out of that and into an awareness of the divine. So think about that example coming from Jesus and pivot yourself out of what your brain wants to do, which is analyze and cross-reference and whatever with whatever's going on, and just turn within to reveal your own divine guidance. So here's another quote. This one is again from Eric Butterworth, and we're still quoting from the book In the Flow of Life. What is called divine guidance is a flow of infinite mind. It is universal in that it is a principle of mind action and not dependent upon special appeal. In other words, it's there for all of us all the time. We don't have to do anything special other than pivot our attention there. One more sentence here. It makes no choice for you, as in, that energy of the universe, not going to choose for you, but it is the urge and energy through which you can make the choice that is best in terms of your own consciousness. But wait, you might say, I've fallen in this hole so many times. How can I tap into this divine guidance? Now, I must say, my friends, if you've been paying attention, if you've been showing up here, then you already know the answer. And the answer is in the silence or the stillness. So the answer, the wisdom, the guidance is all revealed to you as you spend time in the silence, putting a pause on all of your outer stuff, being still. In the example of Jesus getting quiet, stepping away from the outer world, he talks about shutting your door, to the outer world and sitting in the stillness, pivoting your attention to that divine, giving thanks, and claiming that divine guidance is yours. You might want to write yourself an affirmation. Divine guidance is mine. Sit in the stillness. Practice that with patience, with persistence, and with faith that divine guidance is yours. So we're going to practice that right now together as we move into our time of meditation. And for our meditation today, I'm actually going to continue to read some to you from a quote from Eric Butterworth, the wonderfully eloquent Unity minister. And it continues to be from this book called In the Flow of Life. So to prepare for this time, let's just take a couple of deep breaths together As you are able, just quietly pay attention to the breath moving in and out. If you wish, allow your outer eyes to drift closed and listen to these words from Eric Butterworth. Light is where you are, and it is the complete answer to what you need now and always. The light you seek is not somewhere else, but where you are. Don't ask God to guide you or beg God to make the choice for you. Instead, affirm that you are the flow of light. And God is light. You are it. It is you. It is the reality of you. It is not something to reach for, but a truth to accept. Know that there is that in you that knows the right and perfect direction for your life, and affirm that you are now that guiding light. And let us take that into the stillness together right now. Feel the light that you are right here, right now. You are the light of the world. And so we claim that in any moments where we might feel in the dark or without an idea that we desire, that all we need do is pivot our attention to the divine expressing as us, through us, and all is revealed. So we're going to close our time of meditation with a simple affirmation. I will say it once and then invite you to repeat it with me a couple of times. I am the light of the world, and I am grateful. Say it with me, friends. I am the light of the world, and I am grateful. One more time, okay? Give it plenty of energy. I am the light of the world, and I am grateful. So I am, and so you are, my friends. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm going to hand it over to our friend Linda to close out our YouTube broadcast.
Thank you, Reverend Cheryl, and thank you all for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation.